know how to make it bigger, but if anybody wants an update, just let Jeff know.
Only if it's a good update for the Padres.
I see Mary Lightcap is here. Mary, can you take the roll? Make sure we've got everybody here. I'm pretty sure we have a quorum, but you might as well check.
Yes. Shucks, hold on one quick second. I started just typing the attendees, but I'm just going to go to the roster real quick and just check off who's here. Okay. 21. So I didn't see Kent Lee. Is Kent present?
He is here, yes.
He is. I don't see him on the
He's
participants.
he's on
Yeah?
the participant list.
Okay. All right. Then he's muted. So Andrew, I know I was on the previous meeting. Andrew's here.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I heard Lilith going to the game, so she's here. Craig, no, Ian Kerman here.
Ian said he might not be, and I don't see him.
And then Craig Jackson. Did I see Craig? No.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I thought I did. Ralph Carolyn.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Thanks. John Labaugh.
He's here.
Okay.
John, you want to?
Bari Baz. Is Bari here?
I don't see her yet. She was at the last meeting, so I'm sure she'll be along.
Dorothy Lorenz. I don't see Dorothy or hear anybody say present, so.
So Dorothy will be here. She's actually back in our bedroom because her internet went out, so she's probably trying to connect.
Rose Wang. I don't see Rose. Plus there's some numbers I don't recognize. Or names. Could be calling in from somebody else. Okay, so Craig Radke.
Here.
Here. Okay, thanks. And then Julia Schreiber.
I'm here.
Okay. And Harkey's Sean is here. Mary Lightcap. Justin, I saw you. Mike
Here.
Linton and Marvin Miles. Did I see Marvin?
Don't see him, no.
No. Okay. Is this the correct list? I think we have everybody. I have the
Okay.
new folks. I thought Andrew was, oh yeah, I already called Andrew. Okay. So then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 present. So that's enough for a quorum.
All right, in that case, we'll proceed. This is the June meeting of the Mira Mesa Community Planning Group. I'm Jeff Stevens. I'm the chair of this group. We will start out with non-agenda public comments. If you have a non-agenda public comment, would you please use the raise hand option, show yourself. Oh, okay, there are several here. We'll start with Becky Rapp.
I think you can you scoot in a little? You need it.
These are limited to 3 minutes and they're non-debatable.
Good evening. My name is Becky Rapp. I'm a mother and a public health educator, deeply concerned with the environmental impacts marijuana cultivation and manufacturing facilities have on our community. Mira Mesa has 13 of the 40 permitted marijuana production facilities in the city and will potentially see how the environment will be significantly impacted. Extraction requires the use of harsh solvents like propane, butane, and ethanol, usually in high concentrations. These solvents get washed into sewers and water supplies where they harm aquatic life. They also get emitted into the environment in the form of airborne VOC emissions. In many cases, the excess release of VOC emission will place you in violation of local, state, and federal clean air guidelines. Scientists have concluded that marijuana manufacturing has the potential to more than double the existing rate of VOCs in the atmosphere. This is greatly concerning for Mira Mesa because the VOCs interact with other contaminants, unstable toxic gases are then produced. Planning groups who already struggle with poor air quality will only continue to be negatively impacted. And I ask you tonight to consider contacting the city, asking them to do air quality checks near and around these 13 marijuana manufacturing facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of people came in while you were during that one. Dorothy Lorenz, Rose Wang, and Marv Miles.
Okay, so Jeff knows you're here.
Okay, so next.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, public comment, Mark Vidano.
Hello, I just wanted to be on the record that I'm attending the meeting, first meeting, and I'd be happy to announce that I'm in at the end.
Now we've got a big Zoom.
Okay.
And there you are. Okay. I need to put on a poll. I sometimes.
That's it. I just wanted to acknowledge it on the record that I'm here for the meeting.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
Just okay. Sorry, I was trying to. So Pam, you and Dorothy are even though Pam, you're showing up as muted. You are. I am hearing you.
She was on my screen for a second.
Okay. All right. Next is Allison.
Now I'm unmuted.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Allison, and I'm a regional planner here at Sandag. I support several planning efforts, but one of which in particular I wanted to bring to you today. The South Bay Sorrento Comprehensive Multimodal Corridor Plan, or CMCP, is asking for your feedback. To learn more, you can visit sandag.org/CMCP and navigate to the South Bay to Sorrento project page to access our virtual engagement hub. And I'll put links to these resources in the chat here, if that's okay with you, Chair. You can provide input on the corridor plan project list, view 3 story maps, or sign up for office hours to meet with a project team member or the project manager. This corridor plan's phase 2 engagement period ends July 12th. In addition, you can feel free to contact us at cmcp@sandag.org. And I'll, like I said, if you're okay with that, I can put links to these resources in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Joe Frichtel. You're muted.
I just have a quick comment. There was a flex alert the last couple days. And in that flex alert, they asked people not to charge their electric vehicles. I find that really kind of scary that would happen.
But only during certain hours, right?
Yeah, it's only during certain hours, but you know, more and more people are buying electric vehicles. And if they're going to run into this where they can't charge them or something, that's going to create a major problem.
Yeah. Okay, Kent Lee.
Evening, everyone. Just thought I'd take a moment to share an update. As you know, I'm a candidate for San Diego City Council here to represent District 6. Last month, I think I had announced that we had received the endorsements of over 120 AAPI civic business community leaders. This month, wanted to take a moment just to share that we have been endorsed now by County Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Nora Vargas. We are holding our first kickoff event this Wednesday in the district in Convoy at Common Theory Public House. Just for those who are interested, I'm happy to send you info in the chat. But yeah, otherwise we'll continue to share updates as I can outside of the planning group function. So thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Okay, so there's still, if you have your hand up and you've already spoken, just please lower your hand. Allison. Okay. Go on to modifications to the agenda. I have no modifications to the agenda. Next, we need to adopt the previous meeting minutes. Those were sent out to everyone and have been posted on the website for the last month. Were there any corrections to the minutes? All right, hearing none, minutes are approved as written. Go on to report of the chair. I've got a number of things to report. I've been trying to determine the effect of the Parks Master Plan on Mira Mesa. I forwarded some of the correspondence I've gotten to you. There are a lot of problems with this plan and particularly for us. Among them are the Parks Master Plan will phase out community-specific DIF and FBA fees and replace it with a citywide park fee. What that means is that money from developing areas will be diverted to areas that are not developing. So the idea is to promote equity in park core areas, but because you can't charge a developer more than what's needed to offset the impact of the new residents, that will necessarily leave inadequate funding for public facilities in areas that are developing. The second problem is that population-based park acreage requirements are being phased out and being replaced with a much more abstract point system. I've asked for an evaluation to Mira Mesa Parks under the new system, which will at least give us an example of what that looks like. In correspondence with the mayor's office, I've learned a few things. One good thing, which is that fees from the Three Roots project will stay in the community because the city passed an ordinance that to that effect when the project was approved. That will make a big difference. If we didn't have that, it would have a huge impact on our near-term projects. But otherwise, fees from any building permit approved after July 1st, 2022 will go into the citywide fund. There's supposed to be a separate DIF for non-park projects, but as yet, how this DIF will be determined has not been established. I mean, the city is replacing the FBA and DIF fees with a single DIF fee, with a park fee. But of course, our FBA pays for a lot of things other than parks. And in fact, most of the projects we have in there after the current projects that are started or finished are road projects. So for areas that, also, and one more thing, for areas such as Mira Mesa where the current fee is higher than the proposed citywide DIF, the reduced fee would go into effect as of council approval of the plan rather than in July 2022. Again, it's not clear how that would be separated into the DIF that pays for non-park projects, if the whole thing would be reduced or if that would be excluded. But there are just a lot of issues with this. The Park and Recreation Coalition wrote a detailed report with a lot of the projects. I'm just going to read one quote from it. It says, significant additional funding will be required to ensure a park system that addresses all park deficits. The Parks Master Plan is the instrument to inform and prioritize future funding, but the current draft is missing critical elements. It has no project lists, no identification of needs, or an asset assessment. The recreational value point system has been promoted as a new and innovative way to address the park deficiencies that the current standard of 2.8 usable acres per 1,000 residents was not. We believe the city is confusing problems related to the current system with the current park standard. The current standard did not cause the inequities and deficiencies, and without it, we lose a clear objective way to measure park progress and deficiencies. So that will be an ongoing story. In the mail, and as we just heard earlier, there will be virtual open houses for the Sandag Regional Transportation Plan. I recommend everyone go to one of those. A couple of them already happened, but there will be open houses on June 22nd, 24th, 28th, and 30th. By the way, if anyone wants to know more information about any of this mail, just let me know and I will forward this to you. Email today from Luis. Gold Coast and Parkdale is on the agenda for the active transportation and infrastructure meeting this Thursday. I forwarded that info to everyone. He's encouraged people to call in to make sure that project stays on their high priority list. There was a NORA for sidewalk slicing services citywide. That's what they call it, basically a sidewalk repair. Another one for a license agreement with the San Diego Unified School District for the use of 14 swimming facilities around the city, which interestingly enough included the one at Mira Mesa Community Park that doesn't exist yet. There's a NORA for a special event permit for the Roadrunner Sportscraft Classic Half Marathon and 5K on July 25th. This will cause a number of temporary road and or lane closures. It includes Sereno Valley Boulevard, Camino Santa Fe, and Top Gun, and they're having a party at the Green Flash. There is a letter on the Penasquitos Canyon Preserve Phase 2 Enhancement Project, substantial conformance review. That's on the agenda tonight. Also, a notice of a future decision for the El Cuervo del Sur project, which is also on the agenda tonight. So with that, we'll go on to old business. Community plan update. Alex, are you here?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Alex Frost, Senior Planner. Just wanted to quickly recap our discussion at between 6 to 6:50. We had a discussion on land use and urban design and what kind of developments might we expect in Mira Mesa based on the recommended land use density ranges for 4 different locations. These are just all conceptual. Just testing the recommendation and how we might regulate new developments, including future parks, plazas, paseos, and linear parks, and trying to get new developers to build those parks. So more discussion to follow in August, more about public realm and open space at that meeting. So that's my update. Thanks.
Any questions for Alex?
Hey, Jeff, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I just out of curiosity, I mean, and Joe mentioned this a little bit at the beginning of the meeting. There was a flex alert that came out for everybody to stop using power or to reduce their power usage. We're also in a very severe drought right now, which we're being told is going to be a continual effort for the Western states. Yet the city is planning on adding thousands more homes throughout the city. And it just seems odd to me that if we don't have power, we don't have enough water today, why the city feels the need to increase that problem. That was all. If Alex has a response to it, I don't really expect much of a response. I just kind of wanted to.
Yeah, John, those are
counterproductive.
Yeah, really good points. In terms of electricity, so this came up at our meeting too. All new single-family and multifamily homes are required to add solar. So for 3 routes, all the homes have solar already embedded. So that should help with the electricity generation and EV charging too, charge during the day when the sun's out. In terms of water, yeah, that's a whole nother challenge. Our reservoirs are pretty full right now, but the rest of the West and Southwest is in significant drought. We have desalination plant and the Pure Water project, which will help with some of the self-reliance, but we have Pacific Ocean, so that's our one advantage, I guess, as a region. But it's a concern for sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, the desal water is 2 to 3 times the cost of the other water. So having my water bill triple, not something I'm looking forward to, but expected.
The other thing is, if we use enough seawater to drink, then the sea level will not rise.
Good luck. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how much.
Okay. We're going to go on to our first item of new business. John Ohlson, Headquarters Point Neighborhood Development Permit. Are you here?
Yes, it's a coastal development neighborhood development permit. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Hey, John, Brian Brady here. I might do a quick intro. The chair will have it.
Sure, go ahead.
Right. Great. Well, good evening, Chair Stevens and planning group members. My name is Brian Brady. I'm a principal at Bioscience Properties, or BPI, as you'll hear us call it. I oversee our entitlement design and construction activities. Steve Ballard, our CEO, is here with me tonight as well. And also a few key members of our design team are here for support. So from DGA Architects, we have John Ohlson and Gary Levers. From Rick Engineering, our civil engineer, we have Carson Edgington. We have Amanda Mercado from Ground Level Landscape Architects. And we have Justin Schlafly from Urban Systems and Heather Riley with Alan Matkins. Just a quick background at BPI, we're a local San Diego real estate firm, and we're focused on delivering world-class biotech and life science properties. We're here tonight to present to you our Headquarters Point project. Headquarters Point is a 10.3 acre site that sits on the western edge of Mira Mesa. It's accessed off of Water Ridge Circle. The project entails 2 new buildings totaling 167,000 feet, along with the associated site work. The project will be constructing a new public street called Headquarters Point Road as well to access the site from Water Ridge Circle. This project has actually come before the Mira Mesa Planning Group previously and was approved by the City of San Diego in 1999, though never constructed. Our current project falls within the framework of that project. And in fact, since we're proposing a research and development use, we have less intensive traffic, trip generation, and parking requirements as compared to the previous project at a general office. So there's an existing IL21 zone. And as John mentioned right at the onset, this project is a proposed Process 2 coastal development permit and neighborhood development permit. And we are on our 4th round of review cycles with the city. We have updated a few of our technical studies, namely traffic and biology. And we're happy to report that we have no significant new impacts on traffic, and we're in conformance with all of the bio guidelines for the site. So just kind of a status, we're finalizing a few minor comment cleanups with the city and working with them to determine, or I'm sorry, to finalize the environmental document. I would also like to mention that we own the adjacent property at 10770 Water Ridge Circle, which shares the property line to the northeast, if you will. We've recently completed a really transformative core and shell repositioning of that entire 180,000 foot building and have constructed cutting edge laboratory improvements for 3 users in that project as well. So I'd like to turn it over to John Ohlson to walk you through the project in a bit more detail. Then Amanda is going to explain our approach to landscape, and Gary Levers will provide a bit more color on the architecture and the buildings themselves. After that, we can answer any questions you have. And we'd like to ask for your support on our project and request that you take action to recommend approval. John, will you take over?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So what you're seeing here is the site as Brian described the site. Currently, we've got Lusk Boulevard up here and then Water Ridge Circle here. This is a dedicated or was dedicated previously to be Headquarters Point, a street with a cul-de-sac to provide access to this property. We have Building B down here, which is a R&D building, and Building B up here, which is also an R&D building. This building here is 3 stories. This building here is 2 stories. Our overall parking ratio for this site is 2.89 per thousand. In this zone and this use, 2.5 per thousand to 4.0 per thousand is is your maximum. So we're on the low side of the middle range there, which, you know, is helpful to the amount of trips being generated, which is always a concern of most people. These buildings were designed to minimize the amount of grading. If you see here, we have some contours, and the contours kind of fall off in this direction and also in this direction. So the high side of the building is up here, with the lower side of the buildings being down in this area. Through multiple review cycles, we have not identified any significant unmitigated traffic impacts. Thus far, the results are in line with the previous environmental for the site, as Brian had also mentioned. And also, as we previously mentioned, this is the shared property line between their existing campus or existing building here and the two new buildings. Now, Amanda, would you like to discuss a little bit about the landscape concepts?
Yes, thank you, John. Actually, this page is good to start on. So this diagram kind of maps out some of the primary amenity spaces that we have on the property, as well as the pedestrian circulation. So the primary amenity space for exterior use is south of building B there, where you see the orange bar. So that amenity space is positioned to really take advantage of the beautiful views that are available from this site, looking across the freeway and out toward the coastline. There are a number of different uses for that space, lounge spaces, outdoor meeting space. It really wanted to have more of a hospitality feel and, like I said, take advantage of those natural views and with a lot of organic surroundings. So incorporating a lot of native plants and that type of thing. Then we also have a small amenity space up at building A, which provides some of the same type of uses, but for the users of that building. And then another big feature of the site planning is a trail system that is connecting the building A to the building B. So it's a really kind of botanic experience that connects the two buildings for pedestrians. So people don't feel the need to get in their car when walking between buildings, and also provides just a nice amenity for, people who want to walk on their lunch break or such. There's also going to be a pedestrian connection to the adjacent property, which, as Brian mentioned, is by the same owner. Let's see. Next page, please, John.
Can you see it?
Okay. Yes, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, just a little bit more detail on the plant species and brush management boundaries and such. So, and different paving types that are proposed. So, providing a mix of different textures and plant material throughout to give a lot of variety.
Yeah, this diagram also shows that we have parking underneath the building. Again, that was something we could take advantage of due to the topography of the site.
Yes.
Here's building B.
I think there's just a little bit of lag, at least on
Okay, just highlight the amenity area there as maybe Amanda can jump in and sort of walk us through that.
Here's the Amanda. Can you see it, Amanda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I can see it now. If you want to zoom in a little bit on that, I'll just provide a little bit more information. So, let's see. Are you able to zoom in, John?
Yeah, I'm zoomed. Zoomed.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. I think it's significantly lagging on my end.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So, so what you see here that where you've got the letter B. So that's a lawn space that's meant for flexible use for any type of events or, all hands meetings, but also just for day-to-day use for people who are out there eating their lunch and such. That line that you see swooping around is a seat wall, and then the bar with the D and G is proposed to be an overhead shade structure with a beautiful, cantilevered deck element that would be overlooking the canyon. So variety of different types of furnishings and uses to support both daily function as well as bigger events and such.
All righty, thank you. One thing I'd like to
Let me just ask if you can move through these a little faster. I don't think this is a very controversial project.
All righty.
We want to see how it works, but
one thing I'd like to point out is this project is being processed through the substantial sustainable building program. So these buildings will be designed to a higher standard than your normal building that is processed for a building permit. All right, Gary, do you want to discuss the architecture?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So the guys have done a pretty good job, I think, of outlining the design drivers. And maybe I can just add that the floor plates themselves are based on a very efficient, flexible module for the technology that will be housed within these buildings, but also obviously it's the parking based on a parking module. So there's a real attempt here to kind of integrate these buildings into the landscape and really support the topography and the way the buildings interact with the land. So that's a big driver in this. We're trying to really minimize the disturbance to the site. We're also trying to maximize the views and the orientation and really kind of connect these buildings together through those pathways and a very considered landscape, not only to each other, but to the views towards the buildings and to the buildings in the immediate context. So there's a real sense of trying to connect them. The buildings themselves are very simple masses. These are really just early sketches of the way the building may be organized, but again, utilizing simple materials expressed in a very, very honest way with a lot of transparency. So there's real sense of connection between the inside and outside. And again, integrating that parking as much as possible. So minimizing the actual amount of surface parking. That may be the shortest presentation I've ever done.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, so Jeff, basically, and the rest of the committee there, so this is the project we're trying to move forward. And as Brian had said earlier, I mean, we're just down to the last little things, issues getting signed off by the city. So we're hoping to be able to get approval from your board so that we can keep the project moving forward. We waited till the end of the process here so that we knew most of the issues that would have could have been a challenge were resolved. And so at this point, we're there. And so that's why we're here. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been seeing proposals for this site for a really long time. I think at one point the city owned it and went back and forth between different owners. And
correct.
Anyway, I mean, it looks like a good project to me. So are there questions from committee members? If there are no questions, can I get a motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion to approve, Joe.
I'll second it.
Did you get that, Mary?
Well, who was the first motion from? I didn't see. I know Joe seconded, but who was the
John
voice? John, that's what I thought.
John.
Okay, John. Motion to accept and Joe to approve. Joe second. And then let me bring up the roll sheet and then we vote, right?
Right.
So Kent Lee, you have to unmute everybody that's going to vote. Kent Lee, approve. We can't hear you.
Would it be easier if we just raised our hand?
Then I have to look at everybody. And I just want to go through the list. So Andrew, we'll come back to you, Kent.
I'm here. Sorry. I had
Okay.
1-year-old left. Oh, wait, from the toilet paper. Approve.
All right, Andrew,
Approve.
thank you. Lilith? Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. You know, I'm not sure yet. So I don't have enough. This
Okay.
affects our area. So I guess I'll abstain.
All right.
So Lily,
Okay.
I mean, you had a chance to ask questions. Did you want to ask? any
I
more?
know. I'm sorry. My daughter came in at the same time to tell me about something that happened on the Padre game. And so I was distracted. So I'm just gonna say no for now.
Okay,
Sorry.
Ian?
I don't think Ian's here.
Oh, that's right. He's not here. Craig Jackson
I approve.
and Ralph Carolyn,
I approve.
John LaBaugh. Can't hear you, John.
Approve.
Joe Fritchell.
Approve.
Bari is not here. Did she jump in? Jeff?
Approve.
Dorothy? Dorothy? Can't hear you. Rose Wang? Rose? I'm sorry. Rose? Okay. Can't hear Rose. Craig?
Approve.
Thank you. Julia?
Approve.
Thank you. Harkishan?
Approve.
Thank you. I approve. Marvin Miles? Marvin?
Approved.
Thank you. And Justin?
Approve.
And Mike Linton?
Yeah, approved.
Okay, so Rose and Dorothy, you could put in the chat, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, 1 no, and 3 people that I didn't hear.
Dorothy, my computer died. I'd like to approve.
Oh, thank you. And
Yeah,
then we
Rose
didn't hear
put in the
from
chat.
Bari or Rose.
Rose put in the chat she wants to abstain.
Okay, thank you. Rose abstain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Bari is not here, so okay.
You
1,
know what?
2, 3,
This
4,
one's
5,
definitely
6, 7,
working. So
8,
since you're the
9,
voting
10,
member, if you
11,
wanna
12,
stay there,
13,
I'll see if
14,
I can get
15 approved, and 1 abstain and 1 no.
Good. So thank you very much. So when will you be proceeding with this one?
Brian, I think he's grading plans are being prepared. So as soon as we receive
Yeah,
approval.
we're preparing to move ahead as soon as we can. Jeff, we'd like to be, grading by the end of the year if timelines permit.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Vanessa Sandoval, you are on for two projects.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. Let me go ahead and get started and share my screen with you all.
So Sherilyn Cack put in the chat, she might have a few words before you start.
Yeah, I work with Sterling Cax, so she'll also add to it. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Yes. Thank you, Jeffrey and everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, good evening, Jeffrey and members. I'm Sherilyn Cack, Senior Planner with Transportation and Stormwater, and just wanted to give you some background that Stormwater had processed the city's Municipal Waterways Maintenance Plan, also otherwise called as MWMP, which replaced the Master Stormwater System Maintenance Program. And one of the main objectives is to provide public safety and flood risk reduction. And the MWMP was presented and approved at the Community Planners Committee in May 2020, and it was approved by City Council in June 2020. And the MWMP-EIR has project level and program level analysis. The program would provide mitigation for impacts, and the MWMP-EIR included potential mitigation sites to comply with the required compensatory mitigation requirements by the federal, state, and local regulatory agencies. And the federal, state, and local agencies have requirements for us to provide wetland creation. And the substantial conformance review process described in the MWMP provides for the check and balance to ensure that the stormwater facility impacts are mitigated and consistent with the EIR analysis. And our mitigation sites are being processed through the substantial conformance review. So tonight we'll be presenting 2 mitigation sites, the El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2 and the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve Phase 2 enhancement. And now I will have Vanessa present the El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2. Thank you.
Okay, Sherilyn, what's your position? I mean, how are you related and what agencies?
Senior planner with transportation and stormwater division.
Okay, Vanessa.
Hi, all right, let me go ahead and share. There we go. And so thank you again. I'm Vanessa Sandoval, and I'm an associate planner with the City of San Diego's Stormwater Division. I'm here to talk to you about El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2. It's a mitigation site, and currently the project is still being reviewed by the city's Development Services Department, and the Mira Mesa Community Planning Group's recommendation is requested in part as part of the review process. So the purpose of our project is, I think it was, okay, no, I'm good. The purpose of our project is to establish 1.65 acres of wetland habitat within the coastal zone and multi-habitat planning area. This project is going to provide mitigation for the city's municipal waterways maintenance plan. Specifically, we're going to provide 0.44 acres that are going to be used to compensate for impacts to the Mission Bay Drive Channel Maintenance Project. And the remaining acreage is going to be used for future stormwater channel maintenance projects in conformance with the plan. The wetland mitigation site is included in the plan, which is our department's comprehensive plan for maintaining stormwater facilities. And the plan was approved by council in 2020. The permit application to demonstrate that this mitigation project is in substantial conformance with the approved plan was submitted in February 2021, and it's in review with the city's Development Services Department. And that review requests a recommendation from the community planning group as part of the review process. So here you can see that the project area is outlined in black. The site is located in the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve. The El Cuervo Phase 2 mitigation site is in the western portion of the canyon. It's north of Sereno Valley Boulevard, and it's east of Vista Sereno Parkway and the Interstate 5. The site is adjacent to the northern boundary of the El Cuervo Phase 1 site. So stormwater follows the guidelines that are established by the regulatory agencies, which typically require project impacts to be mitigated within the same watershed where they occurred. In this case, project impacts occurred in the Los Penasquitos hydrologic unit. The MWMP was approved by the Coastal Commission in May of 2021, and they have conditioned the coastal development permit to mitigate for impacts for several coastal channels in the Los Penasquitos hydrologic unit. And this would be mitigated at El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2 per the permit. So in addition to the Mission Bay Drive channel emergency maintenance, there is also an opportunity to mitigate future impacts at this site. We'll be working out all the allocation based on our annual prioritization. And we selected the Cuervo del Sur Phase 2 site to allocate impacts here due to several aspects, including its location within the watershed, the MHPA, and the coastal zone. Our coastal mitigation resources are scarce, so due to the emergency nature of the Mission Bay Drive channel maintenance, we allocated credits at El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2 because it's within the same hydrologic unit, it's within the coastal zone, and it provides appropriate habitat for the types of impacts. So, let's see. Okay, sorry, I was skipping ahead. So part of the mitigation scope of work is going to include grading the upland area in order to remove invasive species and to set the wetland elevations near the groundwater level. Some of the equipment that we will be using includes, oops, sorry, I just lost track of my notes. Some of the equipment that we're going to be using includes, could include like an excavator, a front end loader, a small bulldozer, a dump truck, or a backhoe. We will also be installing temporary above grade irrigation pipes. The irrigation pipes are needed to establish wetland habitat. Irrigation pipes are going to be installed during construction and stay on the site until about year 3 of the maintenance and monitoring period. The intent is to wean the plants so that they can establish themselves using the groundwater or rainwater in the long term. We are also going to be installing green fencing on the site. The fencing is required for public safety since we will have heavy machinery operating in the construction area. And here we have a figure of the type of work that of the site, and this is a construction plan. So here you can see the different types of vegetation that we will be including. Again, we're going to be grading the site, and we're going to be adding native wetland and riparian habitat in its place. All right, so some of the ways that we're going to avoid impacts on the site are to survey the area prior to start of work. So we're going to have a qualified biologist that's knowledgeable of the sensitive biological resources. If any sensitive resources are found, they will be avoided in order to ensure that no sensitive resources are impacted. We will also have, there has also been no archaeological artifacts identified on the site during our previous surveys, but we will have an archaeologist and a Native American monitor present during all soil disturbing and grading activities in case any archaeological resources are found during implementation. And we don't anticipate any impacts to trail usage during construction, but if needed, we will coordinate with the park rangers in order to notify the public ahead of time of any potential trail impacts. I lost my window. There we go. So this is a photo of our current site conditions at El Cuervo del Sur Phase 2. The site is currently occupied by non-native habitat. This is all upland disturbed habitat. And we're going to convert this all into native wetland habitat that's going to consist of herbaceous wetland and riparian vegetation. This right here is a north-facing view of the site, and Sereno Valley Boulevard is located just south of the site.
Can I ask you how you keep the non-native vegetation from coming back in? It looks like it's all around the area.
Well, sure. Thank you so much. And now we're entering the question portion of our of the meetings. I mean, of the presentation. So, yeah, the question was how we will keep the surrounding non-native vegetation
right
from entering this the site. So,
Would you, this is Tracy, would you like me to assist with this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Johnson. I'm landscape architect with Environmental Science Associates, and I'm assisting Vanessa and Sherlyn with design and permitting for this project. So as part of this project, we will be, as Vanessa said, we will be removing the top surface vegetation from the site, and then we'll be grading. And after that is complete, we'll be proceeding with planting and temporary irrigation to assist with establishment of the native plant materials. After that, there will be a 5-year mitigation and monitoring period that is required by our permit. And so there will be worker on site periodically throughout that 5-year period to ensure establishment of the native plants and success of the native plantings, and to manage for invasive species, garbage, and other things that can, accumulate on site.
Okay. I have one other question. Vanessa, I actually sent you a couple of pictures that the little pond out there is almost dried up over the last week. Is that supposed to do that, or is it supposed to stay at a more or less constant level?
Well, the site is supposed to fluctuate. So there will be times of the year where if it's more saturated, where you'll see more ponding, but in like the summer months when we have more heat and, the water starts, evaporating, you will see it dry up, but having fluctuations is a normal part of the site.
Are you adding water to it to try to keep that pond up, or?
No, so during the ponding that I believe you sent pictures of were of the first phase. So that first phase, that's in its 4th year, and we cut initially after we install the plants, we do have irrigation pipes set up, and they're watering the plants, but we actually cut the irrigation off early for that site. So that was in like the middle of the 2nd year of the maintenance and monitoring period. So we currently don't have any irrigation or any water besides what naturally occurs.
Oh.
Okay, so
yeah.
It's just a muddy pit if it dries up.
Vanessa, Vanessa, it's Marv Miles. You had one of those things I thought I would say hibiscus or herbaceous, whatever. What was that? What is that?
Herbaceous?
Yeah.
So, great question. So herbaceous just means any plants that don't, I guess they don't have a woody like a woody core. So that would usually be like any kind of fleshy plants that you see. Cattails are an herbaceous type of plant. That's what you see in the first phase, but then it could also be some of like your pickleweed type plants, plants that generally are, pretty soft and don't have like a woody core.
I've never heard that term before after, 20 some odd years. So new one on me.
Well, I'm glad I can teach you something.
So Mark Vidano said he had a question.
Sure.
So in the beginning, you had mentioned that you would be coordinating with national parks. Is this national parkland that you're doing this on, or is this, who has this land?
The land is actually owned by the city of San Diego.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
Hi, this is Ralph. Carolyn, I have a question and a comment. So during the phase one construction, there was a construction fence erected that was right alongside the trail that people mountain bike and hike on. And it was a little bit dangerous because the netting could have easily caught bike handles. And so people had to be extra careful. So I'm wondering if for phase two, when the construction netting fence is erected, it will be a little further away from the bike path, the trail.
I'm sorry. So you're gonna ask if the I'm sorry, could you repeat that again?
Okay, during phase one, there was construction netting fencing installed alongside the trail that's adjacent to the site. And it fell over in places, and it was a hazard for people that were walking and biking on that trail. So my concern is, and comment is, I really want that hazard removed. So if the fencing could be moved further away from the trail, so if it does fall over in the 2 or 3 years that it's going to be up, that it will not be a hazard to anyone hiking or biking in the canyon.
Sure.
I think, let me, Vanessa, this is Tracy again. So this is something that, an element that I've looked at and worked on. So for the phase two design, we have set the fence a couple feet off of the edge of the existing trail. And also we are including, the fence maintenance is supposed to be part of the 5-year maintenance and monitoring plan. So that is something that should be kept up during the maintenance period. And we're going to make sure that the specifications for the contractor are very clear in phase two so that we don't have any issues. So hopefully that won't be a concern for this next phase.
Yeah, I would suggest that the fence distance is at least the height of the fence from the trail.
We have, our work zone is actually very close to the edge of the trail. So in order to keep the pedestrians safe on the trail from the construction activities, we need to place the fence fairly close to the trail. But we will definitely make sure that there's good maintenance on it so that we don't have any issues with it falling over.
Okay, and perhaps you could post a contact info on the fence in case it does tip over in the storm. That would be helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks. That's all I have.
I see Andrew Miklusakak has his hand raised.
And thank you for your presentation. So my question is regard to, I believe you said that the irrigation was cut off for the first phase or whatever. Is that because there was sufficient water and the plants took and everything? Is that why you cut it off?
Yeah, well, the first phase actually exceeded its has started exceeding its performance standards early on. So part of that, we realized that we could keep the site going without irrigation and not have any issues. So part of the reason why we did decide to take off the irrigation was because the site was doing so well on its own.
Okay, and then do you anticipate the same thing for the second phase?
Yeah, we do. We do anticipate it to do really well based off of the first site, which is almost pretty much almost exceeding its success criteria in almost every category. We do think it'll we do think it's a good indicator of how phase two will go.
Okay, thank you.
Craig Radke, I think I had asked you to look at the plans for this one. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, Jeff, mainly I just wanted to share how the Los Penasquitos Canyon Citizens Advisory Committee approved or disapproved, that is, on this plan, if I can. This project was brought before them at their last meeting. And I think it's important to note that the people on that group are pretty educated as far as this preserve that this area is. There's biologists, geologists, there's people that have spent decades volunteering and really educating themselves about this, the canyon preserve. And they know what they're talking about when something like this comes around. And, oh, sorry about that. They had a few issues with it. Initially, there was a motion to approve it. It was denied. It failed. Then there was a motion to approve or to deny this project, and not only deny it, but also send a letter to the Coastal Commission, urging them to reconsider their approval of it. The group was pretty disappointed that the city didn't come to them first before going to the Coastal Commission. They had many issues with the phase 1 project. Apparently did not turn out the way it was intended. I think Vanessa pointed out that the water level was actually higher than expected. I don't know the whole details on that. Like, I'm not the geologist, biologist that people in the group are. I was mostly just listening to what they had to say because they seemed like educated people on the subject. And like I said, they care deeply about this Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve and maintaining its history. Some of the issues they had were whenever there's a mitigation site and plantings are brought in, it's pretty obvious that it's a mitigation site because things like crabgrass and other weeds come in with those plantings. They, like I said, they had an issue with how the phase 1 went, and that there's nothing in the plan to do anything about correcting the issues with phase 1. So we're moving on with phase 2 and never correcting any issues with phase 1. And the other thing is they want to point out that this is a preserve. It's designed to be a preserve. It's not a mitigation dumping site for the city. So they felt that, you know, the city's going to keep bringing in mitigation for other projects in an area that really isn't intended to be that. There's other sites that they felt were more deserving of something like this. They felt areas in like Rose Canyon, which is a lot closer to the Mission Bay area, that actually could use something like this. And but apparently for some reasons, with I don't understand, with city regulations, for some reason that area doesn't get included in the consideration because boundaries and legal things, which, you know, common sense doesn't really dictate, I guess. I say there's other places like maybe Carroll Canyon, you know, that people don't visit as often, or maybe even care as deeply about preserving, you know, maybe around where the train tracks are. There's lots of areas like that. I don't know. I'm not a specialist on it, but the main thing was is they voted to deny this, and they are going to try to persuade the Coastal Commission to reconsider it.
What do you think we should do on this, Greg?
My suggestion is based on attending that meeting and listening to the people that care about this site and are educated about it. They're not just, you know, NIMBYs or something. I mean, they approved the phase 1, but based on what their opinions were on it, I would urge that we turn it down, we deny it.
What was the problem with phase 1?
I don't know the full details on it, but I know one of them was the water level actually was higher than expected. The city's response to that was that, well, when they did the water study, it was during a 5-year drought period. So I guess, you know, they did the water study during a drought, built the project based on that water, and then the drought ended, and now we have too much water in there. That's the extent of the details I know about it. So like you said, Jeff, you thought that what happens when the water seems to be drying up, I think that's intentional. I don't think it's meant to be a pond all year round. I think it's meant to be marsh, but you know, I don't know the full details. I was just I'm not a biologist or geologist. I was just listening to what they had to say.
Yeah, mud isn't very good for a marsh, but
Yeah, there was comments about how there's already salt in the soil, and if we bring in more water and it evaporates, could that leave more salt, which would then harm some of the plants that are native to that area? Again, beyond my expertise, but that was from the chairperson of the Los Penasquitos Canyon Citizens Advisory Committee, who is a biologist. He's also very educated on this specific site. They had, like I said, they had several problems with it. In my opinion, they should have been the first people to ask about it, since they care deeply about this. The people in that group spend a lot of their time volunteering to maintain this as a preserve. And they did not like this project for several reasons. One of them because phase one didn't work out like it was intended, and nothing's being done to fix it. And they also don't want to continue to use this area as a mitigation site. It's a preserve. There are other canyons or other areas like this that are not preserves that should be utilized.
okay. Vanessa,
Jeffrey?
Sherlyn, okay.
Jeffrey, I'd like to respond. Hi, this is Sherlyn Cack with Transportation and Stormwater. So the Los Penasquitos CAC did mention about El Cuervo Phase 1. Just to let you know, what was on the floor for them to consider was El Cuervo Phase 2. We weren't there for El Cuervo Phase 1. We did hear their concerns. And as far as the site in itself, the site is doing well. We actually have permits by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's in the 5-year maintenance and monitoring period. And there'd be no reason for the city to go back to the site because it is so successful. As Vanessa said, it's exceeding its criteria. So there is not a problem with that Phase 1 site. And what was before them is the Phase 2. And we did have support, and we do have support from Park and Rec Department. So this land is owned by City of San Diego, Park and Rec Department, and we completely have their support because this area is a multiple species conservation program. And what we're doing, what we did in El Cuervo 1 and what we're doing in El Cuervo 2 meets and conforms to the MSCP plan, and we will be enhancing the site. And El Cuervo Phase 1 has brought in endangered species, birds that had never been there before. And the ranger was out there last week and wanted to take a picture and show you guys because it's brought in valuable habitat and animals to the site. And so Phase 2 will be doing the same thing. And so it's not something that we're destroying the preserve. We're actually enhancing it and bettering it. And the Park and Rec Department is in concurrence with what we're doing, at the site. And just to share with you, the MWMP, like I mentioned to you before, the Municipal Waterways Maintenance Plan, basically has to also go forward to the other federal, state, and local agencies with respect to the plan, which I had mentioned at the beginning, and which they did. And as I had also told you in the introduction, that these agencies require us to have wetland creation. So this habitat happens to has a hydrology, and we've got the native habitat to increase the functional value of the area in the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve. So we just can't go anywhere to create a mitigation site. It has to have the hydrology, it has to have all the right functions in order to do so. And by having Los Penasquitos Creek, that helps out with the hydrology. And I hear you guys with respect to Rose Canyon or any other types of mitigation sites. However, the other mitigation sites are either like people brought up the Mission Bay Drive, no, not Mission Bay Drive, sorry, the Mission Bay Park plan. Well, that's an endeavor by Engineering Capital Projects, and the planning department. And so that's on a different track. So we couldn't use that. I have coordinated with Park and Rec, and it was never brought up to them with respect to having Rose Canyon as a mitigation site, as well as I personally have looked in the surrounding areas, and you've got other entities as far as ownership, as well as you have to have the right functions in order to create a wetland. So it's not like the stormwater department isn't looking for other mitigation sites. We are, but we happen to know that this area is successful, and we are enhancing the project and in the preserve. So it's nothing, you know, that we're doing to destroy the area. And I could also have Jim Prime, who's our restoration ecologist, also have a few words in order to comment about the ecology of the site and how it's suitable.
Yeah, thank you, Sherlyn. My name is Jim Prime. I'm an ecologist with Environmental Science Associates, and I've been involved with monitoring phase 1 and also the design of phase 2. And I would just reiterate a couple points that Sherlyn made. You look at the photo that Vanessa shared of phase 2, a disturbed upland full of weeds. That was the condition of phase 1. Phase 1 in year 4 is, again, it's very successful. The herbaceous wetland, another, you know, more maybe common way to think of that is freshwater marsh. Phase 1 has freshwater marsh along with riparian scrub and woodland for 2 reasons: for the ecology, to have that sort of diversity of habitats, and also because of the type of impacts that the city has in these channel maintenance projects, often typically involves some freshwater marsh habitat. The 2 sensitive species that have shown up in phase 1, which already occur in the preserve, so it's just creating additional habitat for them, are leaf-spells vireo and light-footed ridgeway rail. From an ecology standpoint, phase 1 is excellent. What is often an issue in some of these wetland creation sites is a lack of hydrology. It is true in the herbaceous wetland area that it is ponding, has temporary inundation during a given year longer than I think was originally expected, but it's creating really kind of unique waterfowl habitat, herons, and a variety of species. So phase 2 has the advantage of having a successful model, phase 1 next to it. And it's, again, disturbed upland habitat. And I've been working in habitat restoration for about 30 years. In the phase 2 site, I'm a direct, transparent person. The phase 2 site is probably in the top 5% of sites that I've seen, because it is disturbed upland. The groundwater is not that far below. It ranges about 3 to 4 feet below. So it doesn't take a lot of grading to establish appropriate conditions. And there is that confidence of having the successful adjacent site. And then the last point is just reiterating that potential other locations do get considered, but the resource agencies require the city, in order to get these permits to do maintenance, for channel maintenance, for public safety and flood control, that the city has to provide wetland creation, essentially the conversion of uplands to wetlands. And there are very relatively or very few good opportunities for that, particularly in the coastal zone. So the Lost Pen CAC, I respect, everyone's opinions and so forth, but from an ecology standpoint, phase 1 is very successful, and phase 2 is as good as a wetland creation site as I've seen over my time working as an ecologist.
All right, so we have some rather strong differences of opinion here. All right, I see Julia has her hand up, and then we'll decide what to do. Julia?
Yes, I have a question regarding breeding mosquitoes, possibly with creation of additional wetland areas. Could you comment on that?
Sure. So in the, I mean, we do realize that with with bringing a wetland on site, there is the potential for more mosquitoes to breed. We have not had, during phase 1, we have not had an issue reported at the Los Pencac. It was brought up, however, we have not had an issue directly reported to us. If we do have any issues with mosquitoes breeding on the site, we will coordinate with the county since that is the county's jurisdiction. So if we have any issues that come up during phase 2, we will make sure to, keep everyone's safety in mind because that is our priority, and we will be coordinating with the county in order to address that as soon as we can.
Well, that might be an issue if you start then spraying pesticides to try to control mosquitoes in the preserve. That's not going to happen. So I don't see how dealing with the county is going to help.
Well, the design of phase 2 is designed in order for there to be less ponding. So it's a meandering design. So the design is basically supposed to have the water flow through that site, and it's supposed to retain a little more in phase 1 and then flow out. So we don't anticipate that being an issue. Again, I can't speak for the future. If we do encounter that, we will have to coordinate with the county and see what our best options are for the site.
Okay.
That's not really.
Hey, Jeff, it's Mike Linton. I can't find the raise your hand button, but can I comment a little, or at the appropriate time, can I comment a little?
Yeah, you'll find the raise hand on the reactions button.
Is it on the reaction? I saw the clap, but I didn't see the raise hand. Anyway, here, is that the one? So, just real quick, as a planning group, have we strayed beyond the authority and actually the experience of the planning group to, Army Corps oversees this, the city oversees it, Parks oversees it, Public Works oversees it. They've got obligations, they've got specifications, they've got design. So assuming all that happened correctly, what do we do as a planning group? We're looking for consistency with the community plan. But I'm not vector control. Are they doing their job? I mean, I just don't know how far afield we get into the quality of the mitigation that the planning group is supposed to comment on. And I'm not saying that any of those points aren't valid. I just don't know if that's our role here, or our role is to say, look, they're doing mitigation in Penasquitos Canyon that is or isn't allowed on their property based on the community plan. So those are kind of my questions.
Yeah.
And are we focused on the right response?
Here's what we can do. We can vote to approve this. We can vote to not approve it. We can vote to have no opinion on this and let other agencies decide on what to do about this. Or we can postpone this and ask them to come back with more information if we want more information. Those are basically our choices. I wouldn't be averse to sending this on without a recommendation at this point, given the discussion we've had, but I guess I will ask for, I'm gonna take a couple more questions, then I'll ask for a recommendation. Marv, you're next on the list.
It just seems to me that the city is talking with the city, and it doesn't seem like they've made a presentation, and that's part of what we're talking about, that I don't know if they ever gone to the Penasquitos. I mean, we have obviously the whole point of being able to kind of have a good working relationship, but it doesn't sound like anybody's ever made a presentation or worked out issues that Penasquitos Canyon Preserve has. And it just seems to me like, they're all talking among themselves, they're all happy and they're all working towards it, but they haven't really talked to a group that's been involved with it for 25 years. And before it was the city land, they were there and they were active. And of course, that's all part of Pam and all the people she's been involved with for years. So that's my thought. It's just like, you got to be kidding me that really, I mean, I know that the city wants to take this and do what they need to do and all that kind of stuff. We've got all these different people, but I listened to a lot what Craig was saying. These people have been doing it for 30 plus years. So, just a thought.
Andrew?
Just real quickly, in terms of getting rid of mosquitoes, there's other ways to do it besides pesticides. There are the mosquito eating fish, which the county provides. So, I mean, I just think that, going down the pesticide route there's other ways to abate the problem.
Vanessa, is there a particular way you would handle mosquitoes? Would you do pesticides or fish or something else?
Well, we don't handle mosquito eradication because that's not within our jurisdiction. But I'm just saying from my experience managing wetland projects, we would definitely want to take the least invasive route, especially the route that would have the least impact on the native habitat. So if that so happens in the future, which we're definitely hoping it's not, that wouldn't be up to us, but we would definitely hope to take the least invasive options. But ultimately it would be the county's decision on how to mitigate the vector issue.
All right, Lil, I'll let you have the last question.
Lil,
are you there? You have your hand up.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I had it muted. After listening to Craig, and I wasn't a part of the phase 1 plan and the mosquitoes and everything else, and I know how the city works at a very slow pace. I am not in favor of this and would not approve it at this point in juncture from everything that I've heard. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you.
Okay, I need a motion from somebody on what to do with this.
I'll make a motion to not approve.
I'll second that.
So
I'll
motion
second,
from
okay.
Will, second from Craig. Not to approve it. Is there any more discussion? In that case, Mary, would you call the roll on this one? Remember, a yes vote is to not approve it. So.
Okay. To not approve it. So Kent Lee. This is a vote to not approve.
No.
I'm sorry, Kent? No?
No.
Andrew?
No.
So this is a vote to not approve it. So
I
Kent.
understand. My vote is no.
Okay. Lilith?
No.
wait a minute.
Lilith.
Lilith, you're the one who made the motion.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I approve.
See, that's why I want to make sure everybody understands.
Yes, sorry,
This is
sorry,
a
yes.
vote.
To not approve. Yes,
to
sorry.
not approve.
I
Your
didn't even think
motion
you were
was
gonna-
not to approve it.
Correct. And I didn't think you'd call on me again since I made the motion. So sorry.
Oh, I have to for the vote. Okay.
I understand.
Craig Jackson?
Jeffrey.
Craig? I'm sorry.
Move yes.
Yes. Ralph?
No.
John?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Bari is not here. Jeff?
As chair, I'm going to abstain on this one.
Dorothy?
No.
Rose?
Rose had to leave.
Okay. Craig?
Yes.
Julia?
I'm going to abstain. I don't think we have enough information or enough expertise to really vote one way or another.
Harkishan? Are you Muted.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to vote no. Marvin?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. And Justin?
Abstain.
Mike?
No.
Okay. 6 voted no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abstained. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes.
So the motion fails. I would make a recommendation, I think, that we pass on this one, that we make no recommendation on this project, either for or against.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay.
I'm sorry, Jeff. This is Andrew. Just real quick. So if this motion passes, does this mean that we cannot revisit this in the future?
No. We can either request they come back, or if they, if they think they've got some ammunition to get our support, they can ask to come back.
But they don't need our support, right? They could do it without our support. They just asked for our recommendation, and we're saying we can't make a recommendation.
That's right. It's a process 2. It'll be it'll go before a hearing officer, right, for approval. And if we make no recommendation, it just means that they don't really take our recommendation into account.
Okay.
Lilith, you can lower your hand, Lilith.
All right, Mary, go ahead and call the roll on that one.
On the motion to not make a recommendation.
Correct.
Okay.
Jeffrey? Sorry, Mary. I just want to interject that a substantial conformance review, it is a process 2, but for the municipal waterways, it will go to city council.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion we're voting on now is to not make a recommendation. Kent?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Lilith?
Yes.
Ian? No, he's not here. Sorry. Craig Jackson?
Yes.
Okay. Ralph?
Yes.
John?
No.
Joe Fritchell?
Yes.
Jeff Stevens?
Yes.
Dorothy?
Yes.
Rose left. Craig Radke?
Yes.
Julia Schreiber?
Yes.
Harkishan?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that we don't make a recommendation. Marvin Miles?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 15 yes, and 1 no.
Okay. So I don't like, having a presentation and not being able to recommendation, but this one's a very unusual case. And I think in this case, given the limits of our expertise and the reaction of the Penasquitos Canyon Citizens Advisory Committee, I think that's probably the best choice. Okay, so with that, you have one more item for us.
Yes, that is correct. Now we have the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve Phase 2 mitigation site. Go ahead.
What we just had.
that's fine. Okay. All right, so now we have the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve Phase 2 site. And let's see. Oops, sorry, I'm just trying to get a hold of my the correct notes here. There we go. So this site is another mitigation site that we've got. This project, much like the El Cuervo Phase 2, is still also going through review with the city's Development Services Department, and the Mira Mesa Community Planning Group's recommendation is also requested as part of the review process. So the purpose of this project is to provide 29.26 acres of wetland enhancement opportunity within the preserve. Like the El Cuervo Phase 2 site, Los Pen Phase 2 is intended to fulfill the city's compensatory wetland enhancement requirement for the Mission Bay Drive Channel Maintenance Project. The remaining acres of mitigation credit will be used for future stormwater channel maintenance projects in conformance with the Municipal Waterways Maintenance Plan. Our application to demonstrate substantial conformance with the approved Municipal Waterways Maintenance Plan is in review, and it was submitted in March 2021. The substantial conformance review also requests a recommendation from the Community Planning Group as part of the review process. So here we have an aerial of the project site. The project is outlined in red within the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve and within the Los Penasquitos Canyon. Los Pen 2, I'll be referring to this as Los Pen Phase 2 from now on, but the Los Pen Phase 2 mitigation site is within the western portion of the canyon, and it's north of the Mira Mesa Boulevard. It's north of Mira Mesa Boulevard and west of Camino Santa Fe, right here.
Oh, so it's Lopez Canyon.
Yeah, so much like Cuervo Phase 2, the mitigation site complies with the mitigation guidelines established by our regulatory agencies, which typically require the project impacts to be mitigated within the same watershed where they occurred. Again, in this case, it's within the Los Penasquitos hydrologic unit. And the Mission Bay Drive Tunnel Emergency Maintenance Project, which occurred in the Los Penasquitos hydrologic unit and the coastal zone, will be mitigated here. And we were, again, the impacts are allocated here in order to offset the impacts that, jurisdictional impacts that are required by the federal, state, and local regulations that require us to mitigate within the watershed, the multi-habitat planning area, and within the coastal zone. So for the Los Pen Phase 2 project, we're not going to be grading. This project only involves removing and controlling a variety of non-native invasive species in order to provide us with 29.26 acres of wetland enhancement credits. This is gonna include cutting non-vegetation. Enhancement treatments will also include treating and using handheld mechanical equipment and hand removal methods. Our goal is to adequately treat and remove the non-native species by incorporating methods that are going to minimize impacts to existing wetland and riparian habitat. Unlike Cuervo Phase 2, the project is not going to require grading, so the equipment will only consist of hand tools such as chainsaws and weed whips, and there's going to be no irrigation pipes or fencing needed, and there are no public trails on this site. So in order to avoid impacts on this site, again, work areas are going to be surveyed by a biologist that's familiar with the sensitive biological resources that are present, and they're going to check the area prior to work. If any sensitive resources are found, they will be avoided or the work will not continue in order to ensure that there's no sensitive resources impacted. There were no archaeological resources identified in our surveys, but we will have an archaeological monitor present during the soil disturbing activities in case there are any archaeological resources that are identified during project implementation. And again, no trail, there's going to be no trail impacts anticipated because there are no public trails on this site. So this is a map of the invasives that are in the area. The site is currently occupied by native riparian and wetland habitat with non-native species that are dispersed throughout the project area. All the points that you see on the map represent invasive plants. You're seeing the eastern portion of the project area. And this right here is a continuation of that project area map. And this is the remaining western portion of our project site. So here we have a photo of an area where we are doing work. This is a photo that's facing southwest, and we will be removing palms and other invasive plants in this area. Palm right here. And from this inset that you see here, it's taken from point number 7. So it's taken from point 7 and it's facing southwest. This is another photo of the current phase 2 site conditions. The site is currently occupied by native, again, it's occupied by native riparian and wetland habitat with non-native species that are dispersed throughout the project area. And this is a western site. This site is, this photo is from the western border of our site, and it's facing east. So with that, again, we want to thank you for allowing us to present to you, and we request that you do make a recommendation in favor of this project, and we can take this time now to answer any questions about this project. Thank you.
Okay, raise your hand if you have a question, please. Craig Jackson has the first one.
Could you go back to the first map that shows the layout of this site?
Sure. Let's see. You mean this aerial?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is actually all in Lopez Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the title of this action was a presentation on Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve Phase 2 Enhancement. Am I changing it to Lopez Canyon?
Well, it is Lopez Canyon. It is not Penasquitos Canyon.
It is in the Los Penasquitos Canyon Preserve, so I think
Correct.
that's their title of the project. So
Okay, but it's actually Lopez Canyon.
Actually,
Okay,
Lopez
I'll
Canyon,
just
yes.
put located in Lopez. Okay.
Mark Vidano.
Can you clarify what the native plants are compared? When you say non-native, Because currently those plants are there and in their native environment. Are you saying non-native because they don't fit within the ecology of the preserve, the wetland?
Sure, let me just make sure I'm understanding. So your question is more what we're considering to be non-native?
Correct. And is that in reference to the preserve you're putting in or the current environment?
That's in reference to the current to the preserve. Because there are a few plants that are non-native but not considered invasive, but the plants that we're targeting are invasive plants. So plants that are gonna be problematic and that potentially have that have a potential to negatively affect the current ecology.
The current ecology or the proposed ecology of the wetland?
Well, I guess by that I mean by proposed we want it to go back to the state, that it's supposed to be in. So that would be like the native species that are in the canyon.
Yeah, so let me just interject. I mean, I think what you're doing, things like that palm tree is all sorts of seeds that have washed down from developments above. Some of our canyons have these enormous palm trees in them. In fact, I don't think they're quite as big in that canyon as say in Rattlesnake Canyon, but I think it's that kind of thing that you're removing there.
Yes, so we are removing palms. Let me defer to our restoration specialist, Jim Prine. He'll be able to give you a few more details on our plan to remove the invasives.
Right. The focus is the more problematic invasive species, species that are not indigenous, native to California, things like Brazilian pepper and eucalyptus, palms, poison hemlock, and so forth. So in the plans, we have a list of these target invasives, and we did a survey and GPS their locations. Within this proposed enhancement area, those invasives comprise approximately 4%. So the area is predominantly native habitat, willows, sycamores. It's a drier, it's wetland riparian habitat. The boundary of the mitigation site is based on a wetland delineation in terms of wetland and riparian areas that are under the jurisdiction of the different regulatory agencies. The location of the site also is based on it. The upstream end of it continues where the Los Penasquitos phase 1 project, again, it's in Lopez Canyon, as we know, but that upstream end is connecting to where the phase 1 enhancement project just in the last 6 months completed its successful 5-year period. So it's kind of working in that upstream to downstream connection. The focus is invasive species, but the plan also includes going after other non-native species, things like mustard and other species. So, and it is very much to improve the ecology of that area. But as I think someone here referenced, you have these non-native, seed and propagules that are moving through the watershed. So controlling the invasives here obviously has a benefit for removing those species and the seed and so forth from continuing to colonize further downstream.
Okay, let me ask Craig if he reviewed this one or if CAC did. Craig Radke.
Yeah, the Citizens Advisory Committee did review this, and they had concerns about preserving, historic sites or whatever on the site, but they did approve it.
Okay, this one seems a lot less controversial to me because it's basically just going in and restoring the area to the way it was before the development around there was.
As a courtesy, I wish they'd take some poison oak out, but I doubt that'll happen.
That's right. Poison oak is native, isn't it? there are a couple more questions. Julia?
Yes, just to confirm, basically we're talking about weeding, correct? It's a question for Jim.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
There's no, just for clarification, there's no required native planting or seeding, but the plan has an adaptive management measure that if there are locations that would benefit from native planting and seeding, that's an option, on a limited basis. But yes, it's essentially a weeding project, if you will.
Craig Jackson, do you have a?
I would move that we approve this portion of the plan.
A motion.
I
from
second
Craig to
that.
approve. Who is the second?
Julia.
Julia. Motion from Craig, second from Julia to approve. Any additional discussion? Let me just ask so we can move on a little more quickly. Is there anyone who would not vote in favor of this? In that case, I'm going to call this one approved unanimously. Vanessa, you can go home happier now.
And Jeffrey, this is Sherlyn with Transportation and Stormwater, and I just want to clarify to all that the substantial conformance review process 2 for both projects, it's a staff decision, DSD decision to approve or deny the SCR with the appeal to be filed to City Council if there was one due to its affiliation with the MWMP. So it applies to both projects. Just wanted to clarify that on the record.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Go on to the next item. I had added an item here on the capital improvement program. Someone is making his noise in the background. What is that?
Is that better? I closed my window. Miramar is loud.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so I had added an item here on capital improvement program. The reason I did that is that the city asks all the planning groups for a priority list for capital improvements each year. I never bothered with it because our FBA program defines our priority lists, and we've updated the FBA program annually. But now that the city has stopped updating that plan and are planning to phase out the FBA entirely, it may be that we need to do some input to the capital improvement program. Now, they said that whatever we do has to be approved by the planning group, and it has to be approved before our August meeting. So I just wanted to ask for a motion that our capital improvement priorities will follow the priorities that are in our existing financing plan, FBA plan.
So moved.
Motion from Craig. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Joe. Any discussion? Any objections? Okay, we'll have that unanimous also. I hope that
Jeff,
yeah.
if that isn't enough, we can get the 20 years needs list out and put that on as a focus also.
Yes. It's a strange thing because there's not a whole lot of money in their discretionary capital improvement budget, and it typically goes to a few little projects here and there around the city that don't have an FBA program. So, but the city's just making a mess out of this. So,
Jeff, while we're talking about this, there's one thing that the city has really not explained. I understand where they want to take the money and they want to improve parks down in south of Highway 8 because those are old communities down there, and they weren't built like the new parks up in the north. My problem is with this huge housing crisis that we have in San Diego right now, there is no vacant lots anywhere in south of Highway 8. So
yeah.
To put parks in down there, they're going to have to buy people's houses and make parks there where people are currently living. But that's not, that, they never discussed that in this whole issue.
That's
So
the reason why, sorry, Michaela from the mayor's office, that's the reason why they're trying to change the parks master plan, because it's gonna change from an acreage-based standard to amenities-based standard. So it's improving the parkland with more amenities in that space.
I
So it's
understand that, but you're gonna take away people's houses when there's a housing shortage, which doesn't make any sense to me.
What they're,
It's not true that they won't be taking housing.
what they're really doing is they're giving up on acquiring parkland. They'll acquire a few little pieces here and there where they're available, but for the most part, they are just going to add additional amenities to existing parks. So we have one other item. So Leo Alarcon, this meeting's gone on quite long. You said you had a 15-minute presentation. Can you do something a little shorter than that?
Yeah, I could do about 5 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for adding me to the agenda, and thank you, everyone in the planning group. My name is Leo Alarcon, and I am a community development policy supervisor in the economic development department. And today, I'd want to review the roles and benefits of joining the Consolidated Plan Advisory Board. We've created this outreach effort because we've had a vacancy in Council District 6 for about 5 years. And we just want to let the community know of what the roles and responsibilities are of joining the CPAB. So Jeff, is it okay if I share my screen?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the city has over 40 different boards and commissions with over 200 different City of San Diego residents represented on these boards. The city recently created an Office of Boards and Commission to better track vacancies, expired terms, and any other items related to participating on these boards. The office has three goals established in their tactical plan that include ensuring the boards are relevant, involving the community in various policy and decision-making issues, and communicate the concerns of the community with various elected officials. So as a CPAB member, there are two primary responsibilities associated with being a board member. The first is the scoring criteria, and it's what the entire CPAB uses in evaluating the proposals received and is required to be revised annually as outlined in our council policy. Each category will have its own scoring criteria. In some of our busiest years, we've had 8 different scoring criteria for 8 different categories. This last year, we only had 4. We usually meet once or twice in an ad hoc setting and discuss what updates and considerations for the upcoming application cycle and finalize the criteria sometime in the fall. The other critical responsibility for the CPAB is evaluating the eligible proposals we receive. City staff evaluates the proposal for eligibility, and once we deem it eligible, we move it forward to the CPAB sometime in late January, early February, and the CPAB has about approximately 4 to 6 weeks to evaluate the proposals. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, their CDBG program provides annual grants on a formula basis to states, cities, and counties to develop communities by providing affordable housing, suitable living environments, and expanding economic opportunities. The funds are primarily for low and moderate income persons and low to moderate income areas. The needs and priorities for the CDBG program are different in each city and state. And so in San Diego, and specifically what related to the categories the CPAB evaluate are the following. So it's public services, economic development, nonprofit, facility improvements, and housing rehab. So a couple of categories, a couple of highlights that we've done in the past. So with the economic development activities, the organizations we tend to provide assistance to micro enterprise businesses, which are businesses with 5 or less employees. So the picture on the left is from an organization called Horn of Africa, and they provide a childcare certificate program. where the organization assists refugees establish like home daycare businesses. And it's interesting because I managed this project a couple of years ago, and the director stated that a lot of these women who establish these childcare businesses can easily make over $100,000 with this business. The picture in the middle is from a client who was assisted with Access San Diego's micro enterprise program. And then on the picture on the right is from a business expo event that city staff and the economic development organizations pulled together to have an expo highlighting the businesses that have been assisted from the program. So city infrastructure projects aren't specifically evaluated by the CPAB members, but they are included in the annual action plan, which the CPAB vote and recommend to City Council. So the Malcolm X Library is a great highlight of the work city staff did to complete the project. The improvements included a music studio, a tech center, 3D printers, access to virtual reality, a new computer lab, and just overall improvements to the library. And so over the last few years, the CDBG program was able to receive outstanding debt from the former redevelopment agency. And so with the additional funding, new opportunities arose. So here's a photo of the graduation for our small and emerging nonprofit accelerator program, where we partnered with USD's Nonprofit Management Academy to assist nonprofits with a variety of assistance. Usually this is for them to get their organization up and running. So this included a $25,000 grant, training and everything from accounting principles, management, fundraising, a single audit, and audited financial statements, which usually cost about $5,000. So this is a key component for nonprofits, as this is a requirement to apply to other federal and state grant opportunities. So we've had quite a number of different CPAB members throughout the years. I've been with the city 8 years, and I specifically just worked with the CPAB members. So we've had Vicki Granowitz and Ken Malbrough, and they provided a quote on some of their experience working on the CPAB and just overall their experience working with the different members of the board. And that's about it. So if anyone knows of anyone in the community, specifically in Council District 6, that would be interested in joining, that is my cell phone and that is my email. Jeff has my contact info as well. I would love to explain more about the benefits of joining the board. We do a lot of good work and it really impacts all the communities in San Diego. Again, I want to thank you guys for your time. It's late Monday evening, but yeah, thank you. And I'm here, and my colleague Michelle Morano is here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Leo?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah. We have all these commissions that are in the city of San Diego, and like there's over 200 in the state of California, but nowhere does it say which ones are being paid and which ones are volunteering. Now, like the Mira Mesa Planning Group, we get paid in a lot of things, but it's not monetary. And so when you want people to apply for these things, if there's some kind of money involved in the position, I think it makes a big difference on whether people apply for that or if it's a just voluntary thing. Because when people volunteer for something with no pay, they have a different outlook on something when they're going in there and then getting paid and reimbursed for that. So I think it would help if we knew when we're getting paid, when we're not getting paid.
Yeah, that's a great point. I will say joining this board is non-monetary compensation. It's more just to be involved with the different boards, and it's mostly really understanding the different aspects of the funding that the city receives. But yeah, there is no monetary compensation for joining this board.
This is Mary. I have a question. Does this board help do programs for the homeless?
Yes. So we have, for the public services category, we have 1.3 million set aside, and those funds go directly to the San Diego Housing Commission, and they have 4 different programs set up there. The public services category is pretty much open to a lot of different populations, and one of them is homeless. And so we've had organizations that they have, something where they're doing an outreach team, helping the homeless either find employment or find housing. And so there are categories sometimes in public service, we don't know what type of applications we're going to receive, but we have funded organizations that assist the homeless.
All right, well, thank you very much. His contact information is here, and if you miss getting it from there, you can just contact me, and I will get you in touch with him.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, we're on to elected officials, government agencies. Thank you very much to those of you who have stuck it out this long. We do actually have 4 representatives here, I believe. California Senate, Diana Lara, are you here?
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. It's great to see all of you. I just have a few updates, DMV related. Everyone who renewed their driver's license during this past year and did not receive a real ID can upgrade their cards at no additional cost. This offer is set to expire at the end of the year, which is great news. So if you were not able to get your real ID because you can get an appointment, lanes were limited and all the COVID restrictions, but you did apply for a new driver's license, you can still get a real ID at no cost. And Jeff, I will send you this flyer so you can pass along to the community members if you'd like. And again, I have left my information in the chat box. We are working on EDD cases around the clock. We have currently closed over 3,000 cases and counting. And we are currently still closed in our district office. We are waiting for guidelines to safely return back to work. We are rumored to return in July. We're not sure yet. So we're still working remotely. If you need a meeting with me or any of our staff or Senator Atkins, we're still available via Zoom and through the phone. And that's all the updates I have for you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you have anything else, do put it in the chat and I will save that. Michaela, how are you?
Doing good. Good evening. Michaela from Mayor Todd Gloria's office. It's the bottom of the 5th and Padres are up 6-1. I know you guys want to watch the rest of the game, and I had the distinguished honor to talk about the Parks Master Plan, but instead what I decided to do, I went through the plan and wrote a really good summary on it. And so what I'll ask for the board, I'll send it to Jeff to send it over. If you can review the summary, if you have any questions, you can contact me. I've been working with the planning department on getting those responses back to Jeff. You'll see the questions in the summary. I wanted to, is that okay with you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Perfect. Luis is going to touch on the update on Gold Coast. I won't take his thunder, but I just want to emphasize to please call in to show in your support for the reconstruction. Councilmember Kate doesn't sit on the ATI committee, so his voice won't be there, but hopefully it'll pass the committee, go to council. He's been advocating on it, but we just need to hear the residents' voices as well. There's still a lot of money available in the Housing Stability Assistance Program. So if you know of anybody who's past due on rent, utilities, or internet service, please send them the link to apply. That will also be in the email. And then exciting news on this Wednesday, I'll be joining Barry with a homeless organization called Peeping. Well, they're a homeless services provider, people assisting the homeless. Barry is going to give us a tour of different communities locations within the Mira Mesa community where the homeless tend to congregate. That will allow PATH to deploy their outreach workers social workers to those locations specifically so they can start to build relationships with those homeless individuals. We know that in Mira Mesa, a lot of the homeless individuals are from Mira Mesa. They have a difficult time leaving Mira Mesa to seek services. So that's the approach that we're going to use with people assisting the homeless. And so we will give you an update to see how that meeting goes. And that is it for me. Please take a look at that email, Parks Master Plan tomorrow. It's going to go to the Community Planners Committee. July, it'll go to committee, and it's set to go to City Council in August. So if you have any suggested amendments or again, those questions, please work with me on those. And so, yeah, I'll save time. Feel free to contact me directly for questions.
Has the Park Coalition has made a lot of good recommendations. Have any of those been incorporated into the revised Parks Master Plan?
I haven't seen any revisions yet. I want to go back to, actually, if I haven't seen a copy of the park suggested, I know you mentioned those in your report. If you can send them over to me, I'm happy to inquire further. I know tomorrow during the CPC meeting, I think Carolyn Chase is going to make her own presentation after planning's presentation, just to comment on some additional improvements. I know they're happier now than the last plan, but they still have some suggestions.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Michaela?
And you'll see in the summary, I've emphasized all money that Mira Mesa has collected for Mira Mesa will not be moved. The citywide park fee will only apply to parks. Since Mira Mesa is FBA community, the citywide park fee will be teased out of the fee that developers pay. So the balance will still remain for other projects, including roads, infrastructure, or, libraries, and fire.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Luis.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be brief. As I sent over in that email earlier today, Thursday is the Active Transportation Infrastructure Committee meeting at 2 o'clock. So in order to get Gold Coast and Parkdale funded, we need to get it approved through a resource of commercial paper, which the meeting is for on Thursday. So we're encouraging people to call in. They've assured us it's on the docket, but I really want to make sure this gets across the finish line. So I encourage all of you guys to call into that meeting and voice the need to have both the streets repaved. That flyer that I sent over has both the Zoom link and the call-in number, but this is the last chance we have to get it funded, and I'd like to get it done. So if you guys can call in, that'd be really appreciated.
What is the, I mean, if they actually take it, I mean, certainly we'll all call in, but I mean, is there actually a risk they'll just drop it at this stage?
Sorry, can you say that one more time, Jeff? I didn't catch that.
You never know. I'll take that one, Luis. You never know, but the risk is that the council member doesn't sit on the committee. I mean, and with the Brown Act, he can't really talk to the other council members too much. They do know that this has been a project that the council member has been advocating for, but he wouldn't be able to like secure their vote or per se. I think especially because it has a high price tag for roads specifically, they could argue that it's taking more money that could go to, a higher quantity. But we've done our job on the mayor's side to put this on the list, and hopefully it'll stay. We just want to make sure that residents' voice are backing up the mayor's commitment to have it on the list.
Okay, we will do that.
Thank you so much for the help, guys. Appreciate that.
Kristen. Kristen Kemper, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi. I'll try to be brief too. So it has been, I know it has been busy at Miramar here for the last month or so. We've had several visiting squadrons. they all left last week. So that's probably our own jets that we're all hearing tonight. One thing I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of, the North Gate has gone to limited operating hours. So it will only be open in the mornings and around lunchtime, Monday through Friday, and then it will be closed Saturday and Sunday. So I want to make sure everybody was aware of that. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Any questions for Kristen?
Can I ask a question? This is Lil. They've been running really late in the night, like 10:45, 11 o'clock, and I'm
Yeah, they so they do have nighttime training requirements. So unfortunately, sometimes that is required for them to be operating that late. We do try to make sure things are wrapped up by midnight. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, they do have some specific nighttime training requirements that they need to meet.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Okay, we'll go on then. Did I miss any elected officials? I don't see anyone else here. Announcements. Are there any announcements tonight?
Jeff, I don't have an announcement, but I have a question. The county was going to vote on $3.5 million for the teen center. Did that ever get passed?
Yes. Yes.
Marv says yes. I thought it had, but I hadn't actually heard for sure myself.
So we can start remodeling tomorrow?
No, it passed the first vote, and then it's going to go to a second vote sometime, I think this week. I'll ask the supervisor's office to give the date. It has to go for the final budget vote.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about, whether it got the final vote or not.
Not yet. That's going to happen, I think, this week. After, if it gets approval from the Board of Supervisors, the city will begin exclusive negotiations with the county to come to an agreement.
Please tell the supervisors to approve that so there's not a riot in Mira Mesa.
I'll pass it
So
along.
the final county budget hearing and vote is on the 29th. And so for those who are interested, that's the hearing to actually call in. There's been hundreds of comments left already on a number of budget items, but also on this. But that would be the meeting to call into.
There was one just last week, right? I mean, I thought that was the budget hearing.
Yeah, so last week was a budget hearing, but the final budget approval will be on the 29th. The deliberations and the vote.
Oh yeah, we need people from Mira Mesa to call in and comment on that so that it gets approved.
Yeah. It seems like we have to do that an awful lot of times. I mean, it'll be the third time, right? I mean, we'll do it, but.
It's budget season, then it'll be over and we get the fun stuff.
Okay.
Jeff, I've got one other statement if we're almost at the end.
Go ahead.
I think everybody should be aware that the memorial service for Bruce Brown is going to be on July 9th. July 9th. Visitation hours will be from noon until 1 o'clock. And then the service starts exactly at 1 o'clock. That's 1300 for those military types. So right after that, there will be a gravesite. We haven't got all that squared away, but it's going to be at El Camino. So it's not a very big room. So I would suggest that you go early. So El Camino Mortuary, and that's July 9th, starting at noon. So.
Yeah, I'll send the information out to everyone.
Okay.
Any other announcements? All right, report, CPC report. Last meeting, there was a presentation from the redistricting commission. We all know they are working. Their main problem is that they're using sand egg estimates and they're not going to have census data until at least September. So they're working with inaccurate information at the moment and doing the best they can. Second thing was an update on the City of San Diego parking regulations for non-residential uses in transit priority areas. Parking can now be reduced to 0 in those areas. There's a lot of concern about that transit is inadequate for that, and that businesses won't get any business if no one can park there. So there was a motion made by CPC to stop the presentation to the Planning Commission regarding the parking regulations and return to the community planning groups. Unlikely that will happen, however. And finally, the city is switching all of its public communications to Constant Contact. We use that with the Mira Mesa Town Council. It's a convenience, but it does mean that if you're on a city mailing list and you stop getting notices, you may need to reapply to get yourself back onto the city's mailing lists. Next meeting, we will have the 5-year capital improvement program outlook, which I discussed a few minutes ago, and the presentation on the Parks Master Plan. That meeting is tomorrow evening. Okay, Pam, Penasquitos Canyon, Pam or Craig, who wants to give the report?
Well, I'll start, but then I'll call on Craig, but I wanted to start with a shout out to Craig because Craig Radke gave a report tonight that I anticipate would have been mine if I had been at our last meeting. Craig is my alternate on the committee. I've been involved with the committee longer than he has, but I'm not personally a biologist or a geologist. There are other folks on the committee who are, as Craig said. My specialty is public education and appreciation. And the complicated issue, and I really appreciated Craig being at that meeting and reporting on it to the rest of us. And I don't know if there's anything else that happened. I'll call on Craig right now. You've already heard a lot about it.
Yeah, Pam, it ended up being a 3-hour-long meeting.
Wow.
Uh,
Thank you.
Yeah, most of that being on the same 2 topics that we went over in tonight's meeting. So obviously a lot of personal opinions about those 2 topics, mainly the first one, the one in the Cuervo phase 2. But yeah, those were the highlights of the last meeting.
All right, well, thank you, Craig, for doing that. And for those who are getting very tired at this long meeting, I'll note this one is at least shorter than that one was. And that is our last agenda item. Or does anyone have any other business tonight? If not, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.